Now on Erskine Veterans Radio, each week we like to get to know some more about the people who make up the Erskine Veterans charity and make everything tick on a day-to-day basis. And this week, we're shining the light on transport. Whether that's going to an appointment, heading off on a day out, you need the wheels to get you there. And Nick O'Neill is the transport manager at Erskine, and he joins me now. Hello, Nick.
Hello, Ian.
So let's start with your own career history. Where are you originally from in Scotland, and how did you end up as the transport manager of Erskine?
So I was born and raised in Clydebank, which is just across the other side of the Erskine Bridge. Just before I turned 18, I joined the army myself. So I spent 22 years as a tank transporter driver in the Royal Logistic Corps. I done 10 operational tours in my time. I also spent 2 years working with the UN, and then when I came back from working with the UN, I finished my career in HQ Windiv, which was based in York. So my last 2 years were based in York. When we moved back from Cyprus, my family relocated back to Clydebank because our own family were still here. So my last 2 years service I done as a commuting Monday to Friday soldier. So spent time travelling home on a Friday and then back down south on a Monday. During my operational tenures, I conducted operations in Bosnia, Kosovo. I done 3 tours of Iraq and 2 tours of Afghanistan also. Exercised in nice countries such as Canada, Oman, and obviously, as I said, I spent 2 years with the UN, which was in Cyprus, where I was the United Nations Master Driver for UNFICIP, which is the name of the mission in Cyprus. In 2019, on the 2nd of April, I finished my 22.5 years service.
Wow, so it's quite a career you've had, and you've seen a lot of the world and a lot of the biggest conflicts over that period of time as well. Yeah.
Any conflict that happened during my tenure, we had some involvement in it. Although primarily I was a tank transporter driver. Once I made senior NCO, you had to just decide whether you were going the Sergeant Major route or the Master Driver route, and I decided that the Transport Master Driver was the route that I would like to have taken.
And so through that, were you there then delivering all the equipment before everything sort of happened? Because I think my granddad did a similar role, I think, in the Second World War. He went to all the major battles around, Arnhem and things like that. But obviously he didn't fight in those, but he delivered all the equipment beforehand and knew that something big was coming. Was it that kind of situation for you?
Yeah, well, pretty much so, yeah. So the heavy equipment transporter that currently used within the British Army can carry tanks or supplies, so we can carry up to a 40-foot ISO container on the back also, so it's a bit of a multi-purpose vehicle. In conflicts where there's no requirement for armour, we are used to move supplies to and from the forward operating bases, so we don't just sit back in the nice comfortable areas, we actually move forward and make sure that the front line supply to make sure they can achieve their mission.
And how does that world of transporting tanks and supplies and things like that then match up with your current world of transporting veterans around Scotland or even the local area for whatever needs they have? I mean, it must stand you in good stead, the organisation skills that you learnt in the armed forces.
So it does in the army today is really focusing on making sure that they operate under the same legislation as civilian industry. So I still had to conduct my CPC manager's course. We still had to conduct all our cost and waste management courses and stuff. So all the qualifications that I needed to transition to civilian street were gained whilst I was in the military. So they really focus on making sure that the service leavers are prepared for the outside world in the modern society. Not so much when the veterans that I care for now, obviously, it didn't happen quite the same then.
And what attracted you to Erskine as a charity once you'd left the army and you were looking to start your new life away from the army? What was it attracted you? I imagine that you would have been well aware of the charity, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I had a friend who actually was the first sergeant major in the PRU, which is in the on Edinburgh site. So he was based there for 2 years as one of his deployments. So I was more than aware of the charity. I wasn't quite aware how big a charity it is, but what attracted me to it was the fact that we live in the modern day society that we live in because of the people that stay here, and it's thanks to them that we are a free world, to be fair. So while they're needing care, I'd like to be part of the individuals who give them care, because one day we're going to need that same care back from our future.
And what is it that makes Erskine unique as both a charity in Scotland, but also as a place for you to work as well?
It's unique because it's the only charity of this formation in Scotland, so that there's no other. In fact, I say that in the UK, there's no other charity that's sole for veterans. Again, most people reflect to the Chelsea pensioners. Well, the Chelsea pensioners are a massively supported government agency, whereas Erskine's a fully funded charity organisation where we rely on the goodness and kind donations of the people who donate on regular occasions to ensure that we can provide the gold star standard of care and transport that we have for our veterans.
Things changed massively about a year or so ago, and that really has impacted a lot on the kind of things that you normally would be doing with the veterans, transporting them around. Days out, of course, will have stopped. A lot of casual social visits and things like that you might have done will have stopped. How has the last year been from your point of view?
So for me, I had only been in the jobs 7 months when the pandemic took hold, and I went from a transport role to a more focused support service. So we stopped having to take residents to hospitals and stuff because the world was in lockdown. We then focused on making sure that we were giving them the support service side to allow the care staff to achieve the mission, which was to keep our residents as safe in the home, COVID-free as much as possible. And not just within the Bishopton site. Obviously there's 4 sites, and we had to make sure that all 4 sites were working in sync with each other to try and keep the COVID-19 from the homes in general. So a massive change in what was expected of us was that we became proactive instead of routine. So we were working on tasks that required to be done now rather than planning for tasks to happen, because no one knew what tomorrow held over the last 14 months. So, and as much as we're getting back to some form of normality, we still have to be reactive and react to whatever's required at the time that it's required. So it's a huge change, not just for myself, but for the whole team, who have adapted massively throughout the last 14 months. And I have to say, if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have been able to do or achieve what we've achieved over the last 14 months. So it's down to my team more than myself. The guys just turn their hat to anything that they're asked to do, and much thanks must be given to them.
And one other thing that has happened, though, a positive thing that's happened, is that you've got a new minibus replacing the older one. A target for raising money was set at £55,000, but you smashed that, and £90,000 was raised. So additional funds are going to go where they're needed most to help with days out for veterans. This must be a big, shot in the arm for you now that we are starting to get back to some form of normality, and hopefully increasingly so over the coming months.
This was fantastic. So that the fundraising's idea was that myself and them came up with a idea to raise money for the new bus, and obviously we've done a Name the Bus campaign.
Yes.
Again, I had projected a 6-month time frame to try and raise the funds for this, but as we're more than aware, within 3 weeks that the target was reached and exceeded, which was absolutely phenomenal for the public out there prepared to give so much money to us at Erskine in the current climate within the world was fantastic. So yeah, the bus has been ordered and it's due for delivery at the end of July. So we should see the winning name, which I'm not going to mention because I don't know if it's been released yet, but the winning name on the bus at the end of July in and around the areas of central Scotland. So we look forward to that.
I think the name is out there. I hope it is because I mentioned it last week.
Oh, if it is out there then, so Shuggy the Shuttle will be operational from the end of July.
Shuggy the Shuttle, because I had the runners-up as well. We had Stravaig as a runner-up, and I think actually my personal favourite was We'll Meet Again. I thought that was particularly clever.
And that would have been my choice as well, Ian. We'll Meet Again was fantastic. Gesture for a name, but again, hopefully it's something that we can do in the future because we had such a great uptake on it. I don't know why the whole fleet doesn't get named, to be fair.
Yeah, there is that. How many buses have you got now then?
So I currently have 5 buses with the new one inbound. Obviously, one of the older buses will rotate out of the fleet to allow for the upgraded model to roll in. So we look forward to seeing it. Again, they're not just within the Bishopton area. I've got a bus in Edinburgh and a bus in Glasgow also. However, the Edinburgh bus is currently back in Bishopton. There's no requirement at the minute in Edinburgh due to there being no outings and stuff. Caddy vehicles much more accessible for them to get in and around Edinburgh City, as you can imagine.
When you left the army and decided to work with the Erskine Veterans charity, which is a charity that you knew all about, what have you found to be the real benefits of working for the charity for yourself?
I just get a sense of achievement because obviously I came from a background where I was always part of a team, having spent 22 years in the army, so camaraderie is a massive thing for me, and just to wander around the houses and spend time speaking to the house staff, but most of all speaking to the veterans and hearing their stories and trying to compare how their time within the military was so different to my time in the military, that the conflicts that they undertook are completely different conflicts to the conflicts I was involved in myself. So it's nice to have a comparison of what they did for us and what I have done for our future in respect. So it's rewarding just to know that they respect the current military as much as you respect them.
As you say, times are different, but the sort of things that you've had to face that similarly are the same. You know, being away, undertaking dangerous missions in hostile environments, you know, that still remains the same, doesn't it?
Yes, of course, and obviously there's some people here when I say, oh, both my kids were just born when I went on operations. I didn't see them until they were 6 months old, so I sort of missed the baby part. But as many of them could tell you the exact same story, and probably in the older days, people tend to have a lot more kids than we do nowadays, so they probably were worse off. And 6 months is a long time for us. Some of these guys were out in these conflicts for years and years, and we were only 6 to 7 months at a time, so there's a massive difference there.
Of course, nowadays we have different communication means as well, don't we, that perhaps, you know, certainly in the Second World War or even earlier, that those simply didn't exist. I mean, phones barely existed.
Yeah, exactly. So we were quite fortunate that wherever we went, we had a good communications network. As we advanced, things such as messenger and video calling all became part and parcel of your deployment. You get allocation of time to phone home, but you also had as much time on your internet as you required. Providing the connection was good enough, you could make FaceTime videos or messenger chats and stuff, you know. So our communication network to our relatives was much more advanced than what the veterans would have been. However, watching some of them around the home now, you wouldn't think that it would startle any of them back in the day, because they're also good on these iPads and iPhones and such likes today.
Yeah, I've heard that they've been getting good training and are very adept at Zoom calls and things like that now.
Yeah, well, obviously with them being locked down for so long during the pandemic, they had to adjust to be able to spend time and see their families. So some of them are gurus now on this IT equipment, better than some of the staff, I would say.
Well, it's a good skill, and it's as you say, it's unfortunately it's been necessary, but it's great that some of them, and I suppose that it's gonna increase their contact with the outside world even post the pandemic, because they'll be able to get in touch with people, further away around the world, long lost family kind of, or long distance family and all that kind of thing.
Yeah. Whereas before they maybe only been able to have a phone call with their relatives who live down south or further afield. Nowadays you can just Zoom call or video chat, and it doesn't just have to be them and them. There's multiple group Zoom conversations. You can have as many people as you want in these group calls. So it's nice that family gatherings can actually happen on a Zoom call. It's the way forward. I think Zoom was a pretty unused tool before this pandemic. I think it's one of the most used items in the world.
Yeah, if only we'd have had the foresight to buy shares in Zoom a couple of years ago, we'd all be millionaires.
Or face masks.
Yeah, that and hand gel. Yeah. Absolutely. Right, well, look, it's been fantastic speaking with you, Nick, and thanks for telling us a little bit more about yourself and the things going on in the in the transport. And what sort of days out and trips are you hoping to be able to get up and running later this year if everything goes well? Have you got any ideas yet?
Well, as soon as we can. Again, activities, we'll put forecast the events together, but as soon as we can get veterans out on the ground, I want the team to be out on the ground ASAP. We have had to reduce the capacity of the minibuses, obviously due to social distancing, so the minibus capacity is reduced slightly compared to what it used to be, but we've still got plenty of vehicles here to get maximum people out on the ground as soon as we're allowed to. I would imagine the first thing we'll be doing is outdoor sort of outings, and then I'm sure it won't be long until they're back going to Braehead to do their weekly shopping and stuff. So I look forward to seeing them on the beach, down at Largs, having their fish and chips before the end of the summer.
I saw a news article online at the weekend, and it was at Braehead, and it was a big stretch limo pulled up outside Primark because people were pleased to be able to finally go and do some shopping. And maybe that's something you could work on in the future.
Yeah, I don't think it'd look too good with all the Erskine minibuses parked up outside the Primark with all the residents in getting their best summer gear.
Maybe not. Let's finish with a song then. If we were going to play you a song, is there anything that we should stick on for you? And is there a reason for that song?
So one of my favourite songs is U2 featuring Mary J. Blige, and it's One Love. And the reason I say this song is during my time in the conflicts, we used to have regular updates about what was going on in and around all theatres, Iraq and Afghanistan mostly, and they used to use a theme tune behind it while they were showing the presentation. And that song, whenever I hear it now, just takes me back to being in these locations, and reminds me of the people that we've lost and the ones that are still here who were unfortunate and had injuries and stuff. So it's a trigger song for me, I'm afraid, but it's a good song as well.
Okay, we'll play it for you now. Nick O'Neill, thank you very much for joining us, and all the best for the coming weeks, and hope that things on the transport front start to get moving a little bit more.
Yep, let's hope so.